If you're still waiting to acquire at a certain range, it might be prudent to prepare, set some things.
And all of this was sell side pressure and bad sentiment. Now, prices in front of all that, this is all acting as bid support and positive sentiment, right? So it's just a completely mind fuck for everybody that was watching the markets.
Then the delta between the deal that Hedron is at currently versus the new inflated HEX price is what, in my opinion, will drive demand to go into Hedron. Good morning, everybody, and for some of us here, good night, I guess, for silver. But yeah, we got a fun impromptu stream coming out for you guys this beautiful Sunday morning for those of you guys in the US, and we got awesome guests here, Silver the Antidote, that way, Silver, and Axis Alive. We've got some fun stuff to talk to you guys about. Silver, Axis, how you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Getting ready for this one.
Yep.
We're gonna have a bit of a diverse conversation today for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, get your coffee inside you.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Get your snacks in front of the screens, guys. And
if you're in Singapore right now, sitting on top of a rooftop, coming home from the pub, just sit back, kick those feet up, and get ready to watch the red candles print. No, I'm just
we got some people in chat expecting.
That's it. You told them the secret already.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, guys, I'm launching a coin, sloth coin. Get ready. That's what this is about.
All right, guys.
But no, so yeah, everybody in the chat, thanks for waiting around. We were just prepping in the background, so sit back and enjoy the show. We got some cool information for you guys, and I'll let Silver just set the context for us. What are we talking about today, man?
Oh, well, follow my tweets. We've been looking very good for the last few weeks, setting things up. Everybody is anticipating the news to come out from Richard himself, which nobody really knows the timeline. I am personally expecting between 4, 6 to 8 weeks before hopefully it's go. So that for me is really bullish on obviously price. Now, I do a lot of traveling at the moment, so I'm pretty limited with what I can do on the chain. But prior to this stream, I had a couple of hours spare, and we caught a bit of development inside of the chain, the activities, some of the big wallets that are being a little bit naughty, I'd say. And obviously, price is showing you what exactly is going on. So I believe it was probably about 2 hours ago, something like that. There was a fairly large end stake of about 18 million. Now I'm going to do some of this just without looking at my screen, just to keep the flow going well. So the numbers might slightly vary a little bit, but in ballpark numbers. So there's an actor, a player who we've started. That's why this stream's a little bit late today, guys, because suddenly something happened and we had to jump on top of it and try to orchestrate. Okay, how exactly are we going to describe what is going on? And we needed a bit more data and a bit more time for this actor to actually start maneuvering to show what his cards actually are. So unfortunately, he pulled out the 18 million and quickly dumped it within about a 30-minute space. And that is why the price is taking a bit of a slide at the moment. Now, I'm just going to, we're not going to coat anything with sugar, no cherries on top, nothing nice. The guy has another 127 million HEX due out today. And again, while we were still back in the green room discussing things, there was about a 30-minute wait between them unstaking that one as well. So we're in a little limbo. We're trying to do a bit of background check on what his previous actions have been, when exactly it was that he got in. So the 18 million that he sold, or she sold today, was a 28-day stake. So that was actually bought. When was it that I told you, Axis?
June 22nd, price traded between 3.5 cents and 5 cents roughly. I think, let's see, let me double check to make sure.
So we estimate that they probably bought it around 4 cents, something around there. And they've then sold it up at about 5.7. So this could have predominantly been
actually, yeah, you're right.
Intention of purchase.
4 to 4.2 cents. So this guy's up on this bag, maybe, 40% potentially.
Yeah.
So like, I think, sure, no, just to be really clear, like that could just be like some short-term profit taking to get that nice profit on that bag, secure that bag, and then that maybe that, with this larger bag, it's not really as much of a threat as it looks like.
Yeah, and the other aspect to look at it is they've bought at a certain range. They've let the price go up. They're selling what they deem to be of a high value, potentially some sort of local top or a decent range. Because they've bought previously and they've sold higher, sometimes this can be very beneficial inside of the market space. Most people will look at it negatively, saying, okay, he's bought, he's sold, he's made profit. But we know that they're a staker. They have multiple stakes. They've got other stakes in the couple of $100 million in 2025, 2024. So they're a very large account inside of the ecosystem. Now, I personally have good vibes with people that can time certain highs and then reacquire lower to then re-increase momentum and basically absorbing a lot of sellers that are in there just as flippers and traders, whereas this guy may be on accumulation, trying to create more and more. So if there is an assumption that price draws down now, maybe they want to re-enter back down at the 4, which is going to give them a lot more buying power. It's going to take up a lot of the bad actors who don't stake, who aren't involved in the system. And that's a good way of transitioning the very weak hands, paper hands that don't support into the ones that do. So this could potentially be a very beneficial shark that is going to extract out of the trader's hands. However, we need to wait a little bit to see what they are intending to do with this 127 million. Mm-hmm. Personally, if they were going to dump, they would have removed both of these stakes at the same time because they were both due today, but they only pulled one and then sold one. That gives other people opportunity to sell, but it also gives up opportunity for market recovery should they want to pull the other one and sell the other one. So that's why this stream is a little bit delayed, because we are waiting just to see what happens. And they're probably tuning in now as well, listening to our analysis and probably laughing at ourselves, saying, you got no idea what you're talking about. This is what I'm going to do. Boom. Okay. So let's give it a bit of time. But personally, I think they're going to restake it. I think they're happy with the move they've done. I think they've done actually very well. And if the price does retrace, it does create a bit of panic, a bit of uncertainty. There's nothing wrong with creating that. And the bigger accounts have the power to do that, which is why they can push markets in certain direction. Mm-hmm. So what will completely fuck up his plan is obviously if the market maintains buy support into what has been sold. Now, we understand that the Bitcoin markets they're taking a little bit of tumble. We understand that there's certain figureheads out in the space right now that are saying price go down. And one of the biggest factors that HEX has that they don't is obviously the PulseChain launch, which is why currently it's having the decorrelation aspect in the marketplace. So it doesn't actually help having large players sell, but at the same time, it helps when they sell because they become more diluted over time. And they might make profit in the near term, but if things maintain, now they lose a lot more of that power as price potentially rallies out, which might draw them into having to sell part of that 127 if their intention is to pull it down to a lower range, create a lot of fear in the market to get all you guys out there now to sell your coins. And then he's going to take your coins back from you. So the question is, are you going to be susceptible to that type of movement? Or are you going to understand that in the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, however long it takes for PulseChain to come out, there's going to be an astronomical rally coming out the other side?
I mean,
So
it's undeniable, man. Like
Yeah.
everything that in cryptocurrency right now is saying that the bottom's in and things are looking bullish. So, like any kind of sells that come in right now are going to easily be absorbed. There's so much liquidity sitting behind price. There's maybe
So I
like
think,
a few small actors that really wants to just take some short-term profit, but I really don't see it as being like long-term effective. And when we compare this chart to Bitcoin in a few minutes, we'll really kind of give you guys a time frame for how long until we're really blasting off in the most bearish of conditions.
Yeah, let me just add on to that one, okay? So we definitely have a bit of a split in community about price, whether some people think it's a bull trap type move that's going in the market. There's a lot of people that are manipulated by social construct, social organization of big people moving bigger balances. There's a lot of leverages that you don't really see what they're actually up to inside of the larger coins. But if there's a big drive in pressure that's coming down, I still think there's a high probability that HEX can maintain and hold. So the question is, do the big people in power now inside of HEX get swayed mentally by negative externals, which in reality, in the next couple of weeks, maybe nothing. So nothing better is than those people losing their coins at low ranges. I'm pretty sure this is a low range, which is why I'm talking so confidently about it. It's an unfortunate event that we see today, but over time, the objective
the time frame's
is
everything.
Over time, the objective is to remove as much balance from the high tier wallets into many people below them. So in the short, it may look not so good, but in the long, there's nothing better than these guys dumping very large amounts. And when me and Axis, we'll talk about this shortly, about the liquidity ranges, different price aspects, how things can bounce, the different limit order ranges, stuff like this. We'll come across that shortly. But what we need to focus on is what is coming down the pipeline, and not to lose focus no matter what is happening in the market. Doesn't matter if Bitcoin's doing this, doesn't matter if Ethereum's doing this. We, in the next 12 months, are going to be in a league of our own. And then it's going to be a case of where are you positioned in that? Because this is probably the last window of time that you have to actually acquire a lot. So generally what an Axis can show you in a second, maybe you bring up the chart now, Axis, of when there was massive red wicks down, when big players sell 100 million type coin moves.
Yeah. Well, first, yeah, we will. To your point is over the last 7 days, HEX is decoupling away from the rest of the market. You can see here in this correlations matrix how 13% of the time, if Bitcoin's going down, HEX is going up or holding its position. And 16% of the time, if ETH's going down, HEX is going up or holding its position. So right now, HEX is effectively decoupling away from not only Bitcoin and ETH, but even Hedron. It's doing it's beating to the sound of its own drum, and it's just it's starting to show the signs of life. And a lot of that is due to major players that are supporting price and putting up liquidity, and the major sentiment shift, and really just like the thousands of new eyes that are on the asset. And so there's just a unique moment, right? So back to your question about the wicks, I think, maybe we go into our liquidity analysis and kind of see like what kind of action we got going on behind price. And if you just look at this liquidity setup, yeah, there's like some sell setup in front of us. Like maybe this increased by maybe 200,000 hex per bar. That's 200,000 hex divided by 1, 2, 4. Let's say 20, 30. Let's say 25 bars with an average of 200. Let's say 380,000 hex per bar times 25 bars, 9.5 million hex. times 0.055. It's only 500 grand in front of us. And we've seen, you know, when one guy does a $250,000 buy, usually it's followed up by a few more $70,000, $80,000 buys. When things really start to recover and traders get confirmed action on the chart, that this 500 grand is out of the question, can be absorbed like nothing. And then the other side of the coin is if, let's just say a worst case scenario, somebody market dumps 118 million coins. Well, 118 million times this price is 6.4 million bucks. But as the sell comes in, usually I highly anticipate somebody wouldn't just market dump 118 because there's so many limit orders sitting inside of here. And inside of here, we have, I would estimate, and I'll do the math here in a second while Silver talks, but I would estimate there's like $4 or $5 million inside of here. So if you want to speak to that while I kind of add this up.
Yeah, well, I'm just checking their last transactions a moment ago all through 1 inch. And they were dumping in 500K increments, basically. Ranging for, 350 up to about 750. Dump. And that obviously gets distributed between all of the pools. They all route themselves through where is the best fixed rate across the board, and then move it all back into whatever it is that they're wanting out of the other side. And it looks like, let me just double check this. 2 hours ago, it looks like they pulled out about $1 million and sent that out to Kraken. So the last time they moved money out to Kraken was 255 days ago. So they moved 1.67 million out 255 days ago, and 1.5 hours ago they moved another million out. So they're still sitting there with a large bag, which, go back, is market value 7.1. Axis is estimating that it's probably realistically only worth 6.
There's, I actually did the math here, roughly $4.65 million of bid support and USDC behind price, just on the USDC 0.3% pair, just on that pair. I didn't even add up the other pairs. So I mean, this guy clicks one click. You know, there's limit orders there to be set that'll neutralize price.
Yeah. So they don't look like a dumper in one whole session. It took them a space of 30 minutes. It's a better way of triggering it because you let the buyers, you also get to see where the limits are. But this is beneficial for everybody out there to basically be prepared. I put a tweet out saying, something's potentially happening, be ready. And this is what it is that we're talking about now. So everybody out there now, not financial advice, if you're still waiting to acquire at a certain range, it might be prudent to prepare, set some things. You could also set some LP positions in the dollar or the Ethereum ranges if you're wanting to target certain areas, but be prepared that you have to be quick to pull those as well, because if the price does go through it and back out again, all you get is the fee. Whereas at least with limits, you're going to get that order completed as long as your position is utilized in that trade. So up to you what you do. We're looking at the data right now. Liquidity wise, price range, we reckon if that was to be sold, it may push it down to 4. Something like that. Yeah. If the whole thing was sold in, within the space of a couple of hours, maybe. But I think it's quite unlikely someone like that is going to actually do that. They've already sat on it for the last 34 minutes and haven't done anything. So yeah, this is going to be one of those streams where we're all itching, waiting to see what's going to take place.
It should be, or
maybe nothing takes place.
It should be a bullish stream for anybody. I think if you get scared by red candles, you completely do not understand the market setup, and you completely do not know what's going on in the market. Like, red candles are candles to buy right now. The amount of buys coming into sells, I don't know if you want to pull up the chart. The buys to sells coming in right now are still 323 buys to 190 sells. Like the bids have outbeen doing the sells for months now. It's been for like 4 or 5 months where bidders have outdone sellers. And it's just been big bags exiting. What the difference is back here in the price, there was like 4 or 5 or even 10 at sometimes big bags just dumping hundreds of millions. Well, now you have a threat of one guy, which is an opportunity for the market. Because even if he spooks a few other guys to dump 4 or 5 million hex, 10 million hex, that's their loss. And I think that it would be strategic for that guy to spook the market, let the price maybe try to sink into that fat liquidity zone. And you know that there's big buyers down here. You know it. You can see it in the sentiment. BitBoy's talking about this crap. Mason versus Lewis is talking about it. Ivan on text talking about it. Everyone's prepping for PulseChain launch, and people's trying to get position sizes. Without going to knocking on Rack and Rochelle's front door saying, "Hey, can I OTC $100 million worth of any of this stuff?" Like, yeah, they can set it. Taking account that that's probably not happening. They're going to need to buy off market, and so there's people that's looking to buy cheaper prices because they don't want to incur the slippage that happens up here. But eventually, this is going to build up like a pressure cooker, and all of the indicators across Bitcoin, ETH, and HEX is all saying the same thing, which is that demand is increasing.
Mm-hmm. And
I'll add one more piece to that as well. Okay, I'm just gonna. There's also another actor in the space, Justin Sun, and I told you guys about this probably yesterday or the day before. He just moved 180,000 Ethereum into the Lido platform to earn 5% yield. So he would not be doing a move like that if he thinks prices are going to be going down. He would be doing other moves, removing the dollar value instead of being bullish on the Ethereum value going up. Mm-hmm. So you've got like the Titan battles going on as well. You got Arthur Hayes saying price going to go down. You got Justin Sun saying price going to go up. So you got to watch how they're all battling and weighing, and they're all going to be doing massive leverage positions between each other, trying to take each other out, right? It's very fierce at the highest Titan level. So they will show us which direction it's going to go. It takes some time. We've had a very decent move. Sometimes you just need a little bit of time. Just let it cool down, let it cool off. Let some of the, inside of something like HEX, where you got a guy with a couple of $1 million doing something, it's not all that extreme. Because if something major happens inside the market with, $500 million move in buy action, then suddenly HEX is going to be pulled up with it. So these guys that are messing about now, and those who are waiting on the sideline, still with cash, really run a massive risk of you're not going to see these prices. So this little opportunity, if this guy does unload, this might be your last opportunity, because there's not a lot of sharks left that are going to dump 100 mil. Okay, not a lot of people going to dump 50 mil. Okay, it's only during these little volatile times you have a big accumulation of just flippers, trade tards that are, every transaction that I've seen in the last probably 3-4 days are just people that are in 1 hour hold, 6 hour hold, 9-12 hour hold, boom, sell. Sometimes they sell 40,000 loss within 24 hours, $40,000 loss. I see one of those yesterday, 40,000 in less than a day.
Come on, people! Like, wake the F up! You guys are getting in on something so cheap that's going to go so high. Like, obviously, those are not the people that are watching our streams. You guys that are watching our streams are a little more educated than probably like 90% of the market. So that's good on you.
Real quick shout out to Ryan Lopez. Thanks for the super sticker, man. The solid stream. Appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying this on this nice Sunday morning. Thanks, man.
Just to your question earlier about wick lows, like, last time we had a big dump, it was here back on January 18th, and we saw the price recover within, the same day. It was down 18% off the bottom of the candle. Total, the price went down 30%, and then within hours, it was already back up. How far was that? It was pretty far. It was up 23% the same day. So
those kind of wicks are things you've been tracking a long time in the Discord. And even calling some of them and saying that those specific wicks where like there's a certain amount of price volatility within that one candle relative to volatility of previous candles that are the opportunities to buy because of the immediate profit, but also because, there's typically a big seller dumping bags, that you don't get that kind of deal very often.
So people are having some PTSD because back here in the price chart, we're having these fat wicks of the downside, and that signaled more downside. The difference is the liquidity was reversed, right? So like this liquidity, like price was back here, and all of this was sell side pressure and bad sentiment. Now price is in front of all that. This is all acting as bid support and positive sentiment, right? So it's just a completely mind fuck for everybody that was watching the markets, because now everyone's biased toward the bear, the general market, and unless you know that things have changed in the liquidity, you wouldn't know that there's a few big titans inside of HEX that's protecting price and setting up and market making in a way that limits downside risk. I mean, you're still good. Like the most bearish thing, okay? So let's be realistic. This is a bull flag. That's a bullish pattern. Okay. You get the same wick as you got here, someone 118 million market dumps. Your downside target's 4.5 cents. Weeks ago, that was unfathomable. That would have been a beautiful thing. So this zone where price shot up from 2.7 and paused around 4.6 cents, this is a key level. It's a 2.618 off the fib extension here from the base, the first peak to the second base, which ended up being a double bottom, which was your wick low on that 118 million dump. So there's so much confluence in this chart right now, and so much pattern recognition for anybody that's got a brain, that you do not want to be fighting against the trend. Like the trend has changed, and yeah, you guys that are seeing this wick here, this obviously something changed, right? Because you see these wicks here are to the downside, but you never get those upside wicks. Versus here, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 upside wicks, it's because the market sentiment's changed and people are starting to accumulate, and there's running out of a supply to buy, and so that's why you're creating that wick inside of those high slippage zones. And you can see those high slippage zones like here where there's only 15 grand locked inside of here, or in this case 400,000 HEX at this price is not much. Let's see, what is that? Quick math. $22,000. Like there's just not enough there for. You're talking that Ethereum has 9 million wallets with $100 or more in them. And you got to think about how much wealth was created in Ethereum. And when you're looking forward as an Ethereum whale shark, you got to realize that your Ethereum coins might not even make 10K this bull cycle. And that's a function of the amount of gains that Ethereum guys can get in altcoins or in ERC20s. If HEX is destined to go to $5 and you're sitting on Ethereum from 1,000 to 8,000 bucks, you realize like 6 or 7x, but meanwhile HEX goes and does 100x. Like you're going to allocate a portion of your whale position in Ethereum into one of the top ERC20 tokens. And by the way, KDP on Twitter has been posting about how Ethereum whales, the top 120 Ethereum whales, have been allocating and had a lot of interaction with the HEX token contract. So it's not just like us just sitting up here spitting like whatever. It's like legitimately all of the signs are saying that smart money is going to allocate to HEX, and they are allocating to HEX. So any kind of downside action needs to be taken advantage of. It's a call to action.
And I think that answers Big Boy Garm's question. He's saying money costs more and more each rise, M supply negative, inflation out of control. Where's the new money coming from to pump prices?
Okay, you want to know where the new money's coming from? Let's talk about new money. How about the fucking $10 trillion of money that they printed back in 2020? Where's all this money? Oh, it's still in the economy. Dude, this is this is like a 50-year chart of all of the money that came in. And then in 1 year and 1 month, they just print 10 trillion. You can't just absorb. You can't just make 10 trillion go away overnight. Look at how slow this is happening. This is an entire year, and the price and the amount of total dollars in the supply is only down 1 trillion. You think that they're going to be able to do something from their position of power to absorb all of the money out of the public and private sector in America and across the world? This stuff is everywhere. There's so many dollars. Inflation's being priced in. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. It's like good luck getting rid of all this money. It's everybody's got cash, bro. That's the point, is that people are going to exit cash. Like people are going to, this is called a blow off top, man. This is the US dollar. And I've been going on and on about this. Is like, this is a parabola. This is a blow off top. When you break the parabola, that's the beginning of downside. for the dollar. Anytime the dollar has major downside, risk assets go up. That means fleeing from dollars that are inflating against you, destroying your purchasing power, and going into something that's going to go up. Even if something goes up 2x, that's a better investment than watching your money devalue by 50% over the next 2 years. And I can prove it in this chart here. This is part of my chart set that I have on accesslive.com. Take a note here, okay? I'm going to go through this with you. The bottom here is called the sentiment oscillator, okay? The red line is bearish. The blue line is bullish. When the dollar is bearish, people exit the dollar and they go into something that's going to actually see returns. Look at what's happening right now in history. The red line is now what's flipped positive, meaning the dollar is turning bearish at a rapid rate. Anytime that you see that here, where you see these vertical yellow lines, whenever the slope of the red line goes positive, and the sharper it goes, it usually anticipates a big down move in the dollar. Well, here in 2018, when the dollar crashed, it signaled it 1 year prior that it was already getting bearish and the bullish sentiment was fading, meaning this was the 2018 bear market right here in crypto. Bam, right here. When the price went up in the dollar, this was 17. When the dollar crashed, Bitcoin went from $200 to $20,000 in 2 years on a weak dollar. Same thing here. This is a crash here. This was 2020 and 2021. Dollar crashes. Well, we know what happened to crypto. Bitcoin went to 69K, right? From a low of 3,800. So what I'm showing you here is that the dollar's setting up for a downside move because this is a blow off top. Anytime the sentiment oscillator flips red, dollar's going to go bearish, okay? So it already signaled bearish. Any kind of rally now is going to be short-lived. Maybe you get more upside on the dollar this year, but then eventually it's going to fizzle. It's like a kid, it's like a person in the water with an anchor around their leg, and it keeps falling lower and lower into the water, and it's trying to come up for air every time, but it's going to get smashed by people looking to exit the dollar to find returns in other assets.
So this works perfectly with don't trust what they say, see what they do. So all those people that are out there right now telling you crypto's going to go down, yeah, it's just a bull trap.
Yeah.
Chances are they're starting to position on the other side, making you all go short while they go long, and they're going to take all your fucking money.
What do we know about
doing those longs?
Silver? What do we know about Arthur Hayes? We know that he ran BitMEX for many, many years, right, and we know what he did to the chart. He had so much power back here. Look at what this chart did for 2 years. Look at these BART patterns. These are massive swings in price where it's just like literal okay, you know, it's like that doesn't happen as much anymore because, you know, the regulators took that down. You know, look at this is just more of a legit downtrend. I mean, granted, you do have a nice fat part here, but generally speaking, the guy that's telling you massive downside is the guy that was fucking with you guys in 2018 and 2019, right? So you got to check your sources, right?
Right. So that's the other one. I want to go back to the liquidity that we were just showing on side of HEX, yeah, because obviously all this stuff's great. We all know what's going on, but one thing I wanted to highlight was, I mean, you're talking about the upside, also the downside, and there's a lot of psychology involved with where it is that people want to buy inside of. You know, they feel number association is important. Like, okay, I want to buy. Everyone was waiting for 1 cent or whatever it was. Never come. Then it's like, okay, 2.5. Okay, well, here we are in much higher ranges. We could be looking at a pull down. The question is, the actual opportunity of acquiring large bags inside of those ranges now, for the people that are sitting there with millions of dollars, they cannot acquire it. So there's going to be lots of smaller people, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 that are going to keep taking little bites at whatever comes into it because there just isn't that much there. Okay, potentially 127 from this one player. That is actually very easily absorbed. One of the things I identified was Axis talks a lot about how large the liquidity was, 300 million HEX down at a certain range that was inside of the pools. and how quickly in, what was it, a couple of months, that was completely removed.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen inside of certain chain accounts, I have seen one player that has, and if we take into account 300 million in the pool, now obviously there's a lot of back and forth, so it's actually larger than that. But from what was a largish pool, 300 million HEX, there are players, single accounts, that have pulled out 20 million, 40 million, 60 million, 70 million into literally like 4 accounts. So that is where that liquidity went, into hands that bought ferociously when prices were low and coming through, because there was a very short window. Even if you say 2 months, oh, it's a long time. Yeah, 2 months is a hell of a long time inside of crypto. But there's certain snap points that happen inside of the liquidity where soon there's no opportunity to buy. Mm-hmm. So you're forced to either, I'm going to take part now and take a risk, take a gamble that it's going to break through and move, and I've made a very smart move in that particular choice. Or there's players who are still saying, nah, that breakout's bullshit, it's going to come back down again. But they're on the sidelines in cash. And Axis has already pointed out the charts of what's happening in cash. So the question is, how long actually are you going to wait? Are you going to wait for a 4 cent, a 4.1, a 4.5, like whole numbers? Or are you going to learn what the liquidity is and try to take pieces of it as it's available in certain ranges? Because all it takes is a very few select people change their mind a little bit. You know what? Today I'm going to buy 100 grand and I'm going to DCA for the next week or the next 2-3 weeks, 100 grand, 100 grand, 100 grand. The price bounces out of whatever it's in now, any form of retracement, it comes straight back out again. And then all of those trade types that have been involved with sloshing it around, guess what? They're out of the picture as well. And it doesn't take a lot because of how the liquidity is balanced. And that is why this thing looks so amazing. And don't forget what's around the corner.
PulseChain.
ELS.
Take it.
PulseChain.
So think about this. This is the liquidity that we're talking about. All right. The amount of Ethereum, top panel here, has went parabolic coming into the pools. Same on the bottom panel, then pink. That's the USDC coming into the pools, went parabolic. Meanwhile, HEX from January 1st of this year, there was 293 million HEX in the pools. That has been completely depleted down to like roughly 60 to 80 million, where it's sitting at right now. And so you got the whole world competing for 60 to 80 million HEX. And to break this down a step further, I did go and I did some mathematics because, you know, math is fun. Not really, but it's enlightening, right? This is the basic ratios as of yesterday. Actually, this is 2 days ago now. 24th, I put this data together. Okay. At that time, at 6 cent HEX, there was $4 million of HEX, and there was $7.75 million of USDC and ETH. That means for every ETH and USDC, they're basically 2 to 1 HEX. That means there's 50% more ETH and USDC in the liquidity pools than there is HEX in the liquidity pools. That means that HEX is rarer than ETH and USDC, right? So,
yep.
You know, when you're talking like ratio trading, HEX is the rare thing right now, and it's a function of this chart here, which is showing you how rare it has become. So in a bearish environment where somebody comes in and starts to sell off price and create a consolidation range on HEX price, this is going to go up the amount of HEX. Maybe you get 100, maybe 150 million in the pools, and maybe this comes down, people take their Ethereum out, this comes down, maybe people take some USDC out. What you're going to do is you're going to make a higher low on the USDC and the ETH, because it takes so much more HEX to bring the ratio back to balance, because it's literally 2 to 1, that you're just not going to have that kind of amount that's going to sit in the pools, because it's going to be pulled out for the very reason that Silver outlined before. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at this stuff and we think about, you know, what would this look like as far as like a sideways consolidation range and time frame, I think it's good to go back and look at the other store of value in Bitcoin and kind of see what it did back in its early days. This would be the 2015 cycle low. It took 490 days to bring itself out of its bottoming pattern. And there was 3 instances where the price wicked below the candle closes for up to a 20% discount, right? And then, so again, HEX is already up 300%. This whole move that took 500 days, Bitcoin was only up 120%. So yeah, HEX is a little more nasty when it gets ready to move. It goes a lot higher, a lot faster. I think it only took like 65 days for HEX to go 300+%. But the general pattern recognition here is like this sideways action here, okay? So what I want to bring your attention to is these sideways consolidation patterns. This is what I see setting up on HEX right now. Something like this, where this guy's coming in, maybe putting pressure on a bottom target line. So what's that look like now? If I take out this 18%, so this is your range that you're looking for. Like if you're a buyer right now, you want price to fall into this range, which this is perfectly normal for HEX to bull flag down into here and then see some recovery, sell back down. Maybe people get really bearish here, and then eventually it doesn't even make that new low. You know, something like this would be like, you know, more expected. And then pretty soon you're back in low slippage territory again. And these are confirmed levels where trade cards come back in to buy, right? So like any move below here will be bought by smart money. And this is where your thickest liquidity band is right in here. Okay.
Keep that there. Let me say something. Okay. Hypothetically, you're a shark with hundreds of millions of HEX. You bought at a decent price. You bought for, I'm going to just ballpark numbers here. You bought a bag for 600K. You just sold it for $1 million within a space of a couple of 100 days, or however long it was. You know the date. Was it 2 months? Something like that.
Yeah, June,
so they just made four.
June. Yeah, so they waited quite a long time.
I told you.
June 20,
200 days.
July 22nd. So they waited.
250 days.
They waited 220 days to make 40%.
Okay, that's fine. Not everybody can time. I'm now thinking about it more now, and I think this is the trading back. I think this is their trading back, and they're happy to hold it. Not if you're a good trader, you never sell when it's below the price you bought. Otherwise, that's when you lose. So as long as you hold it for longer, now they sell it. They're happy. They've now said, okay, this is the price. You know, macro is doing whatever. That little green circle that you're in now, they might be very happy to pump that 1 million back in at a certain range inside of there. Okay. So let's assume that that's their intention. They're going to put $1 million back in at a 15% retracement and then go again, rinse, repeat. All the time, you got your other stakes making huge gains. And now let's add one more little caveat. Let's just hypothetically say this might be somebody inside of the ecosystem that might have a YouTube channel that might be talking negatively about HEX price going down. I wonder why they might be wanting price to go down.
That's a good point.
Why they might be influencing people. No, it's going to retrace. It's going to retrace to 3.5. Maybe they wanted to retrace, so they're influencing. Watch what they do, not what they say. You know what I mean if you're reading between the lines there, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's good luck, I guess. Good luck is all I got to say, you know.
So your objective, guys,
you're basically saying that you think you're going to get a move like this. Like, this isn't even this isn't even going to get you to frickin' like this. How many? I don't even want to know. Let's see volume wise. 20 million a clip, 12 million a clip, 9 million, 12 million, 16 million a clip. Like, okay, who's got that kind of sell pressure, right? I don't know. Better be coordinated if you really want to push the price down that far.
Definitely speaks to the opportunity to accumulate, you know, with the difficulty to push the price down. If you're still looking to accumulate, you know, you're looking for these single wallets, single entities who are like exiting with a significant portion to provide that liquidity for you to be able to accumulate in these levels. And given just the general macro, or not macro bullishness, but the general change in trend for HEX, the redistribution is happening right now, and flushing larger wallets out now is going to allow for higher prices later because they won't have the same sell pressure as they're emptying most of their bag as these lower prices.
Remember, those little fishies that keep jumping on and piling on every day, they're outnumbering the sellers like 2 to 1, sometimes 3 to 1, and that's a consistent thing. So you're fighting against the market when you're trying to do this now. It's not as easy as it was before where you were going with the market direction. For months, this has been, the bottom was set here. Even though you got a new lower low on price, this marked the bottom right here when Gaudio came in and pumped the price up 2 cents in 2 days from a volatility perspective. And this was just the final flush out. It was overperformance. The same way HEX overperformed to the upside, it overperformed to the downside. It was a chance for long-term thinkers to reposition on oversold conditions.
100%.
Maybe, is there many questions out there?
Yeah, good. Let's drop some questions. I started one from a while ago from Momo. He's asking, what do we think about with PulseChain launches? Everyone expecting a rally. Do you see a dump or the rally to continue after launch?
I think, once you get, I can handle this question pretty easily. It's kind of like a common, I'm usually given the same response, which is that in general consensus, because I've been on stream with a ton of different people, most people think HEX is going to rally hard leading into launch, and then a lot of the economic energy is going to jump the gap, leave ETH HEX temporarily, and go back to PulseChain. And so you'll see like a massive dump. And like I would take your attention to like the big payday event to kind of like give you a visual of what that would look like, right? So you get action like this where you get a big run up going into the event, and then it comes back down for a nice smackdown, but yet that move will then be accumulated because it's going to be a reshuffling of the deck of cards effectively. I think ultimately like the overall market is going to be mispricing EHEX for a little while.
And the one wild card for the PulseChain launch is people pulling their liquidity to get their not lose their copy or be diluted from the AMM bot. So that could the general narrative for that is that could increase volatility leading up to PulseChain launch, which I guess could technically go in either direction. But if we're assuming people want or like trying to get their last minute ticket on the bus to get their copy, it would, you deduce volatility to the upside at that point if people are pulling their liquidity.
You're going to want to be holding HEX because it's going to hold the most value going into the fork. Plus you get the copy, right? So then, you get to realize the run up. It's a self-reinforcing loop. HEX is a Veblen good. When it goes up in price, it increases demand. It goes up in price, it increases demand. And it's just this constant cycle that feeds itself. And when you're coming into good fundamentals like that, duplicating your bags overnight, like a stock split, like look at what Tesla did when it stock split, right? Let's see, this is a good example. Shout out to Ryan Hefner for showing me this. Where are we at here, Tesla? So I've outlined this before in past streams, but this was the stock split announcement. There was an accumulation zone, and then price ripped 50%. And then you even had 3 different opportunities to sell the top before you had the breakdown with the macro. So this was going into a stock split. So off the low, you had and this is legacy stocks to remind you. So like everything in crypto is going to perform like a 3 to 4x better going into like a stock split. It's HEX, it's low liquidity HEX. Like it's going to go, it already did 300% on just one tweet, right? So it's like coming off the bottom. So like, remember this, that when you have this event where you're getting more of something, usually people want to accumulate it while there's still less of it, so that when they double their bag, they can then come in and afterward, right?
Yeah. Nice, man. Here's a question from Stefan R. How hard can Hedron snap up to match the HEX price movement? I think it's a good question because with the OA wall pulled, we don't have that hard lock of a certain range of Hedron to HEX liquidity correlation anymore. And so now the correlation between Hedron and HEX is, well, based on two things: the fundamentals of it being tied to the T-share based on its distribution, but also the pseudo liquidity pairing in the liquidation auction. So we still have tons and tons of stakes coming out every single day, as well as 3 months into the future. The number of HSIs being sold back into the auction are slowing down just because the ICOSA price is so far below the ceiling, and the bids for the Hedron, for the HSIs are above the valuation of the mintable ICOSA. So like less HSIs are being recycled, and people aren't as incentivized to do it anymore to accumulate their ICOSA bags. It's more profitable to just go buy it on the market. And so that pseudo liquidity between Hedron and the T-shares in the late HSI auction is the only like solid thing tying the prices together. The rest is just fundamentals. So I think it'll probably take HEX to play out a full larger move up to like the 10 to 20 cent level, consolidate there, have like solid liquidity, price structure, and support, as well as large wallets. We're not seeing them sell as much. Then the delta between the deal that Hedron is at currently versus the new inflated HEX price is what, in my opinion, will drive demand to go into Hedron, because now you have a harder time getting T-shares because of the higher HEX price and the higher T-share rate. And so you can potentially get a greater exposure to the T-share by going through the Hedron route, which will put the buy pressure on that chart to match it at least to a similar degree, a similar ratio to what it is now, but at that higher HEX price. That's my thoughts behind it.
That's very well said. That's exactly my thinking too.
Let me add a couple of things to that as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As most people know, I have been very bullish on Hedron for a long time. I think it's fallen into a bit of a funny zone at the moment. Hence why the transition, the ratio trades, the way that you move through the market is like water. And sometimes things are very flowing and sometimes they're not. The liquidities come in, liquidities go. And you have to be able to blend inside of the markets at, sometimes on an hourly basis to know when a trend changes, when something's starting to fall out of favor, when that little hype has lost momentum. And there was also, some negative press from some people inside of the community describing coins like that they have less value because they are given to free to a lot of people. Now, inherently, this is accurate and correct. But we have seen the buy pressure can overpower what is free to them, because a lot of those early day people that got a lot of it for free sold a lot of their supply very early. So they do acquire amounts at certain points and create sell pressures into the market. But ultimately, the same applies. They are diluted. The question is the energy flowing back in, or is the energy at equilibrium, or is it flowing out? And it was an interesting play to see when the OA removed the liquidity position, because that was a highly defensive aspect that were bonding both the coins together and supporting value. So anybody that had large positions or large amounts knew that there was exit inside of that range at a reasonable value. So when that was removed, it has to stand on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it very difficult for any large bag holders still remaining that may want to exit. So they then have to go into the position of now supporting that ecosystem. That may mean they tie up coins into the ICOSA aspect, or perhaps they need to find other areas where they have values, maybe inside of HEX, because obviously they've got substantial amounts of HEX, which is probably why they've got decent bags. The true ones that are holding and believing, that did the education, understand it, because Hedron is actually Very good. Really good product that's being created. Sometimes things come a little bit before their time. And this is one of those things that I think is a little bit early to the market, but that at least has given us a lot of time for us to learn it. And Sloth, you're doing a fantastic job educating. But what happens is when community has a division in understanding, belief, maybe this is worth, this is not, we lose a lot of the team that we had inside of one product. It reduces, it diminishes inside of another. And what you actually see is across all these other chains, all these other coins, that come into the ecosystem, the army becomes divided and divided and divided across many. So ones that actually support like the T-share values are actually beneficial, hence why the OA supported it in the original case, whereas on others it doesn't even interact. And I'm very surprised with some of the airdrops that it's actually entitled to, it hasn't just dumped those coins. I'm very surprised, because what's happened is some of these other areas, the other coins have taken community, and I guess they're allowing certain freedoms of movement, seeing how things develop down the line. But from a lot of other coins, I never actually see funds coming back in to the origin, coming back into HEX. They always splinter off, and they make money from this, and they splinter off again into other breakaway. I call it breakaway civilizations. Basically, it's like new colonies being created, right, on different planets. That's kind of what's going on.
That's exactly, yeah.
You know what that's the hallmark of, you guys? Is it's the hallmark of a truly successful product in HEX.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if there was not economic energy here, that would not be possible. And so that's kind of what you want to see, is like people splintering off into their own little subgroups and always coming back to the T-share for milk. Like, can I have some more?
But the problem
You know
is,
what I mean?
the problem is a lot of them are not. Yeah, a lot of them are not.
That's good though, because it redistributes those coins back to thousands of more people, right? And then they can't continue that behavior in our ecosystem, and they'll continually be diluted out. So yeah, it increases the length of time until you see better prices, but it reduces the splintering effect long term.
Okay, to me, I disagree with that.
Do you?
So for me personally, I see value being extracted out into another colony. And then they try to create new things out of that. And then the value gets extracted out. And it never actually comes full loop back into where, the value originally came from. Not only that, a lot of people's time and energy are being spent in trying to promote
other
sectors.
Things. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, which doesn't come back into the original. Okay. So that to me is like a net negative of the origin of where it all stems from. And that's not how cycles work. Cycles work and flow is where it starts, prices go up, prices come down. Okay, prices go back up.
I see what you're saying. So
it's flow. So when things exit the market, when they go into other industries, other areas, and they don't come back, this is a negative.
Yeah.
Both of value and energy of time, social awareness, onboarding. A lot of people inside the community right now are saying it's all about onboarding. Let me just wrap this up before we move forward, so I keep train of thought. So in terms of Hedron, my personal take on it, bullish. Today, not. Hence why I don't talk so much about it. We had our moment, and then I started to see things being extracted out, and I started to see like a lot of issues going on, not with what the product is, but with how the community describe it, talk about it, and influence others about it. There's no problem about it. Let's fast forward 2 years, PulseChain out. Okay, you have a massive influx of everybody learning about, PulseChain. You got everybody's been airdropped. Now this whole thing's, really kicking off. We're hopefully, extracting a lot from the Ethereum network. All this action is happening inside of PulseChain. Now, what is going to be one of the premier assets inside of there? Well, we know it's going to be HEX. HEX is going to be where a lot of the money flows back to, regardless of whatever takes place inside of PulseChain and all these other coins. Yeah, some might do very well A lot are going to be pumps and a lot are going to be dumps. Okay, we see that repetition a lot, flow. So there's going to come a time, and Godwell backs this up. A lot of people back this up. Scarcity. HEX is going to be so scarce. So we're going to have this flow where you cannot really buy HEX. It's going to end up in the hands of those that lock it, and they rotate it inside of their stakes. And 10 years, it's a long time to think about. 10, 15 years down the line, the real players are going to be the ones that restake it and aren't looking. And I know people don't really believe a lot of this, and a lot of people will get washed out along the way. But there are people that are going to, young, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds that can afford to do 2 full cycle 15-year stakes and have big ladders running both systems. And it's going to be the second ladder, the second 15-year staker that is actually going to maintain and take a lot of power in the market and grow rank even higher. The question is, there's going to be so limited supply on the market that they're going to have to go to places like Hedron to acquire imitation of what that product is. That is why the OA approves of it, because they know that secondary reinforcement layer then reinforces the HEX, but gives people a secondary area to get into and sell from and into, leaving the main God market like impenetrable in value, because it's all tied up. There's going to be nothing there. So it's going to be, there's going to be people that will sell their Hedron and everything in the ICOSAs and all these things to try to just buy back some of that HEX to get into that God market. But that's going to be a long time down the road. And then everybody inside the PulseChain, maybe it completely swamps everything out in the ecosystem. And if it becomes a predominant area, that is where Godwell's statement of, 1 HEX is going to be the same as worth 1 Bitcoin. Seems hard to think about now, but if it's not available and it's staked, locked, hard, it's kind of impossible that it doesn't, because the dollar can only go somewhere. It has to go somewhere.
That's my general thesis on the dynamic between like Hedron, ICOSA, and HEX, where it's like at some point it just becomes so unreasonable or unattainable to get direct access to the T-share or the B-share or however you want to denominate it, that like it just makes sense to get a more abstracted exposure, but more units of that abstracted exposure to the T-shares through these derivative products. Because as the delta between what you can get directly versus what you can get as a derivative increases, the value of the derivative increases because you get a greater exposure, even if it's indirect exposure. And that's what I was saying before. We have to wait for that rubber band basically to be pulled before it snaps back to catch up to it.
And not to mention, it's a tradable stake as well, which actually has more benefits than the original.
Yeah.
So it's actually 100%. Better in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Another thing I was going to add to all that conversation, which I feel is really good, was that, green candles do funny things to people. And when HEX really tries to go take out the all-time high and obliterates all-time highs, a lot of this money that's getting splintered out across all these ecosystems is going to look at HEX and be like, shit, what did I just do? And they're really going to start to question that. And then that, I think, is when you see some of that economic energy come back in to try to compete for that increasingly rare resource, which is HEX. This is
the problem is a lot of them don't have the liquidity to exit. Some of these guys, they pump in hundreds and millions of dollars, which are extracted from the ecosystem that they came from. And it's very hard to actually get that back out of the system in current ranges. So it's almost like they're married into what it is that they're doing financially. And that kind of goes against the time that could have been spent in further broaden the horizons of what we actually have with the HEX ecosystem and what are tied to the T-share aspects. If it's not tied to the HEX ecosystem, it's not tied to the T-share by locking in value. It's kind of, for me, I don't get a lot of the other things. And, that could just be my flaw. Maybe some of these things are fantastic. That's up to market to decide.
Well, it's borderline retardation.
I voice my opinions.
Seriously, it's borderline retard. It literally is, man. Right. For those guys that are jumping ship now, you're just making a big mistake. Like,
right.
You don't understand how strong the community is and how vibrant it is and how far that's going to go.
Yeah.
Good luck starting your own community, man. That was a
Yeah.
once in a, it was this, we had one opportunity to make another store of value in Bitcoin, right? And we did it with HEX, and it's showing. And like for you to go to try to create some other yield bearing product or try to chase meme coins or whatever it's going to be, that's always going to be a fraction of what HEX is going to do long term, period.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. Like there was a person like in my backyard who wanted to create a crypto boot camp for like the area that I'm in. And we had like 3 huge hexagons, like one from Utah, other ones from Virginia, drive down just for this little meetup to help onboard a couple people. Like what other communities are you seeing people putting so much effort into education, onboarding, and just like community events IRL? Like it's really, I only see it in HEX. Maybe that's because that's where most of my attention is, but you don't see that kind of dedication and community building very often. And we have it in HEX.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got to branch out into a lot of other territories, I think, as soon as PulseChain goes. And I think there's a lot of streamers. There's a lot of streamers that are going to start talking, and eyeballs are going to come. We got our first Korean hexagon, right? Streaming now as well. You guys see that? Some lady. Yeah. I think I retweeted it. I said something.
I'll go look. I'll go.
Yeah. So there you go. We're now starting to translate into Korean.
That's awesome.
Right.
All right, guys.
Well, gentlemen.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you everybody in the chat for watching. I think this was a jam-packed hour, a lot of good information. Rewatch it, like, subscribe. I put the Twitters of these 2 guys down below, and you can click on their link in the just not the description, but the title of the video, and go subscribe to their YouTube channels too. You guys, any parting words for the chat?
Yeah, closing thoughts for me. I'm going to start with, first of all, this is actually a closing out video for our Discord channel. We've been working together for a few months. I've been on the road. I've been traveling, doing a bit of personal things along the way. Been fantastic to have these 2 gentlemen alongside. I've learned a lot. It's been great having them there as support, given different aspects. And I would highly recommend go signing up with Axis. Go signing up with Sloth. They both provide a lot of information in their unique ways. For me, it's value to me. And I will be revamping what it is that I was creating inside the Discord. I will probably wait for PulseChain to be a little bit closer. There's going to be a lot of work that's going to be involved with probably us coming back together as a team and trying to highlight if there's any decent projects that might be coming out. Obviously, this is going to be beneficial because there will be some fantastic things that are probably going to come that are going to be layers built upon and other things in the pipeline. And obviously, we're all in this to make some serious gains, but also guide you through the minefield that definitely will be coming and try to keep you up to date with where the sentiment is going to be, what the chain is saying. What Sloth does is fantastic. He really gets down into the nuts and bolts and describes it into a digestible way and spends tremendous amount of time. This guy spent so much time going one-to-one with people inside of our chat that personally I don't have time for, but he's a very caring, charismatic person that wants to support and help, like in a teacher role. And then you got Axis, who is just a beast inside of those charts. He loves to get into the nitty-gritty, go all out into the macro, and just put it into a very tidy presentation for you guys. So if you don't know who they are, definitely subscribe, definitely follow them, and you're going to get so much more value when you're actually inside of their groups. It may only be $100 here, $100 there, but we have so many testimonials inside of our chat where these guys have, everyone's very happy with what's been provided. So there's a lot of negative things out there about paid groups. The majority of paid groups are shit. They really are. But inside of ours, at least, I feel honored that I've worked with you guys, and I think everybody that has joined have actually received what it is that they came for. So again, thanks everybody for all your hard work. Thank you everybody for your support, and catch you later.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Silver, for the opportunity. It helped me become a better chartist, and you taught me a lot about liquidity, and now I think I've been able to synthesize that and become that much more powerful in what I do. So appreciate that for sure. Sloth, you're amazing, and we're going to continue to work together moving forward with content providing for the community, and we'll be doing our Pure Alpha streams on Sundays, every other Sunday. So it's coming up next Sunday. This is a unique
on your
time
channel,
when we
yeah.
you got one back-to-back Sundays, but shout out to Silver for that. And then
Yeah.
check out my website. I'll be going live in 1 hour, actually 50 minutes with Ryan Hefner. We're gonna go a little bit deeper into like the short-term market moves and HEX in particular. Maybe to do some Bitcoin and ETH analysis and kind of show you guys why the bottom's in, and any dip you get here for the next 30 to 45 days is a dip to buy. So come and check that out on my channel, youtube.com/axisalive.
Yeah, and the theme of sharing the love, I just want to express my appreciation to both of you guys, Silver. You including me in the Discord group, supporting my channel has been incredibly generous, and I really appreciate it. Axis, man, it's been an honor working with you, and I'm really excited to continue to put out content, provide value with you in this community. Even though the Discord's ending this month, I think us three have a lot of cool stuff around the pipeline. So, and I'm excited to go partake on this.
Revamping, not closing, revamping.
Not closing. It is being a nice interior design is being redone. It's gonna look good and slick. And so
you guys shit all over the bathrooms. We got to get them fixed up.
Too many numbers with "call me" on it. We got to scratch it out. It's not good. But everybody, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Catch Axis on his stream in about an hour, and you'll hear from us when we put out more stuff.
All right, guys. Cheers.